Hello.
Revenge of the Gallbladder, Ian. I
know.
thought we solved this problem. What is going on over here?
Had a little bit too big of a meal, a little too
We went a
big
little
on
too
Sunday
hard.
night, a little too hard. Next day was a little not optimal, so still dialing in the gallbladder stuff a little bit. I had this
You
medicine that
hate to see
helps.
that, yeah.
Keep your gallbladder, people.
Keep your gallbladder. That's one thing I've always said is if you have organs and you can keep them, it's just better, it's just better to
Yeah.
keep them.
There's also this sort of lie. People think
Man.
the gallbladder doesn't really do much, but it does stuff. It's important.
It does stuff. It does stuff.
Work it out,
And
keep it
regardless
healthy.
of your origin myth, the gallbladder is there for a reason. The gallbladder was put there by something or someone for some reason, and you went and you just took it out.
Maybe, I mean, the appendix supposedly literally does nothing, but I don't know. I don't know if I buy that either.
Seems fishy, right?
Yeah. I still have that though. I wanted them to take that out while they were in there, but they don't.
You just get like a discount, like a twofer.
Get all this useless stuff out.
Kind of amortize the cost of opening you up by taking out another organ.
Well, because you could have that go at any time, right? And then like, oh shit, I'm going back in to do literally the same exact surgery I just did if that happened. I don't want to.
It's shocking to me the doctors didn't go for that. They weren't like, that's a good idea, bud. I like that.
Yeah, let's add a whole other level of
stuff. Are you a doctor? Because that's a very clever suggestion, sir.
I play one on a podcast. I got an LLM backing me. Pretty good.
Were you celebrating anything on Sunday night, or you just were like, I want some steak?
Yeah, I just did like a big chicken parm situation, but I had to eat like a big lunch too, and it's just too much.
You hate to hear that. You're falling apart, Ian.
I know.
You got the wrist thing. You got the gallbladder thing.
The wrist thing is kind of back a little bit.
No,
so
I can't.
But now
I can't.
It's back a little bit. Not as bad as it was.
Please don't ever say drained again. I can't do that.
Let's
talk about something else.
Don't get old.
So bad. I'm trying not to. I'm trying.
Young.
Oh, geez. Well, on my side, I had a better. We missed Monday, Tuesday. It's now Wednesday, but I had a good Wednesday morning. Let me tell you, I just went to breakfast with an internet friend.
Whoa, that's always fun when you can find an internet friend in this big world that's locally available.
I know. So somebody reached out to me on Twitter. His name is Artem. Let me get his last name, just to make sure I get it right. His name is Artem Bandar. Artem Bandar reached out to me on Twitter. Was like, hey, live in the area, doing kind of the same thing, doing courses and stuff. Independent man about town, and you want to grab breakfast? And I was like, yes, definitely. And then 3 months passed because I've got 4 kids and and so I finally got back to him again and was like, all right, let's do it. And we just had breakfast and it was great.
Your regular breakfast spot or different spot?
Actually, a spot I'd never been to. Yeah.
Interesting.
Very, very, this is truly a very suburby spot. It's called First Watch. And it's like this giant cavern of table and like very normal breakfast foods. It's like, basically an empty warehouse where they serve just slightly above average breakfast foods.
Is it a chain?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think I saw something about one of these in Vegas or something like that.
Probably.
Recently.
That checks out.
I've never been there.
Yeah. So it was great. A lot of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah, meet your internet friends, people.
I love meeting the internet friends. How was Aaron Francis's day off?
Oh man, it was great. It was great. No principals tried to track me down. It was just the best day ever. So
nice.
Let's see. That was
last Monday.
Last Monday. Yeah, I left the show to go to the hotel.
You ran off the stage and
I did. That was freaking awesome. So I went down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you as requested. I sent you a picture of a big old steak. So I did it upright. Glorious. Yeah, so I went down there probably around noon. I was able to get an early check-in. Pro tip, always call on the day before and just say, "Hey, I know you can't guarantee anything. I was just wondering, can you write my name down?" And it goes a long way. And so I got there and they're like, your room's ready. Yeah, we wrote your name down. We got you an early check-in.
You know what I love? If I could interject that early check-in for a minute, is this is one of the great things about casinos. There's a lot of great things about casinos. One of the great things is often they will just like let you buy these things, and I just love that. Like, here's $50.
Pure markets, those casinos, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I just have an early check-in. It's $50, or like I can pay $50 and have a late checkout, right? Like, that's great. Like, it's like you don't have to guess, right? It's like I can just acquire this, and it's just mine. So good.
And you're using funny money. You're like, two chips for an early check-in. What the hell? That's not real money.
And often it's a write-off on top of that. Like when
it's not a write-off.
If I'm in Vegas for a reason that's businessy, it is a write-off.
Okay, yeah. That is a write-off. I was gonna say I'm all on the write-off train, but gambling is not a write-off. But yes,
not the gambling.
Being in Vegas for a business trip is a write-off. I will concede. Good point.
If I'm there for business, quote unquote, and then I have to sleep somewhere, right? Then I can write that off, and I can also gamble. So it all works out.
And there are no IRS agents anymore, so you can do whatever the hell you want.
You can do anything.
You can do anything you want.
Anybody who's filing their taxes is an idiot. Don't file your taxes.
Don't file your taxes.
Advice.
This is financial advice. You know, there's no FCC anymore either, so nobody's gonna there's nobody to report us to. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a brave new world. Yeah. All right, that was close to politics. That was careful.
We got right there. Man. Oh, that's the farthest you've ever gone. We're going to turn this into a politics podcast.
Hell no. We can do a bit. I love a bit, but I'm not doing anything serious.
You're not getting your opinion?
No, you're not getting my opinion. No. That was a bit. It was hysterical. The people loved it.
You went a little political on Twitter the other day. I don't follow
No. What did I say? No, I didn't.
A little political.
No, I didn't. What did I say?
A little political.
What was it?
A tweet about how the algo on X is feeding you all these murder stuff.
Well, Ian, you know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
That was actually a screenshot of CNN.com/US.
Okay. Well, whatever it was.
So it wasn't, unfortunately.
I thought you said it was the trending or something. Obviously I'm wrong. You're saying it was CNN, so.
No, I had a tweet at some point that was like, you want me to get all my news from X.com, the site where anime users argue about JavaScript? That's a different thing. Yeah. That's a great bit. The screenshot I had that said, "What the hell are we doing?" was I was like, okay, I've muted the entire world out of my Twitter feed. And I love being here. It's wonderful. Right. Let's just go see what's happening in the world. Like maybe just to see what's going on, be an informed citizen, whatever that means. Right. And I went to CNN.com and the homepage was like, oh, that's terrible. I was like, okay, I don't need to read all that. Let me click on US. And I clicked on US.
Wow, that's gonna be worse, of course.
Oh, it's worse. We're the worst place ever. That's terrible.
Don't do
Nobody
that.
Nobody murders in Europe. Yeah. They only murder in the US apparently. Right. So I clicked on US and it was like that was the screenshot. It was like 9 of 10 stories were about murder and one was about the iPhone. And I was like, what the hell are we doing?
That's what threw me off is because you were talking about your mute words. And I was like, oh man, they got past his mute words. But no, it's just a different website.
I sought it out. I sought it out. Yeah. I was hoisted by my own petard, as is the motto of the show. And I instantly regretted it and closed it and haven't been back. Right. So if something happens in the world, I trust that you will tell me about it because you're up on it. But
I'll let you know. If I'm like, it's time to get in the bunker, then
you just text me and be like, you should go, and I'll go.
Go down into that garage you built.
Yeah,
the big garage and basement. Get down there.
But
the oh man, what was I gonna say? It might be good for you. It's something more like the BBC.
Oh,
because, they're a little more on the straight and narrow. It's like a real news organization.
Yeah.
And they have rules and things. So they don't go quite as far into like just every random murder. And obviously they're like not even US entirely focused, although they do have a heavy US operation. So I'll give you like the big picture, like the big important things more, I think. And also from the outside perspective, which is always nice. And then less of the every little random
machinations
in this huge
what I actually want, and this might exist, but if it doesn't, someone should make it, and you would make many tens of dollars. So it's a very good idea. I want something that is basically last week's news. That's what I want, or maybe even last month's news.
Right.
But importantly, I want it written from the point of view of today.
Yes, I see where you're going with this. Yes.
Because if you give me last month's news from the lens of today, it filters out like all of the micro movements and the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think very little would make it through. I mean, if you read we're doing a news segment now. If you read a newspaper from a year ago and you look at it about all the stuff that people were freaking out about, and then
all boring old
you
news
filter it through like things that actually happened, you're like, boy, none of that actually came to fruition, or that was all overblown.
That's true.
That's totally true.
Not exactly
that's
true.
Totally true.
I think you're actually making a totally
I'm making
point,
a perfect
which is funny.
point.
But
you pick up a newspaper from February 26, 2024, and you read about all of the micro outrages or like micro terrifying things.
Sure.
And it's like, boy, that just seems pointless now, doesn't it? To say nothing of like 5 years ago.
I think these are two different things, kind of, though, because there's like things that are micro, right? Like in Duluth, some guy was shot in his car, right? Like this is like the little micro thing. I don't even live in Duluth. Why am I being weighed down by murder in Duluth? Like
I don't even know what Duluth is, if I'll be honest with you.
Exactly.
It's in an M state: Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Minnesota.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm pretty sure. But then you have like bigger picture things like, right, like people were worried about who's going to be president, and then somebody became president, and there might be connections there. What happened a year ago, right? So like, but for your service idea, I think that I like it in the sense of like, it shouldn't include the micro stuff at all, right? This is big picture, big things, national news, that type of thing, right? And then to me, the interesting idea where I thought you were more going is like by giving yourself a week or whatever amount of time, then there could be like actual perspective and like
that's
sometimes even results, right? Like, oh, this was the news. Here's what actually happened.
Yes.
And then maybe some analysis or whatever. Or if it hasn't actually happened yet, but it's like, whatever. Now we know more, and
that's
we have
the other
research
thing
and stuff like that.
Is a lot of the breaking news is like, this may or may not happen. And I'm like, don't tell me about it till it does. Like, what am I going to do about it if it may or may not happen? I just want to know, here's what happened. Here's why we think it's important. And that's it. Actually, I don't even want to know that. But that's still a good idea. That's a great idea. You could build a business like that for a really long time and make no money whatsoever. That would be
this is the
a
thing
lot
is
of
you
effort
can't
for
anymore
no
because
payoff.
let me sit you down in 90s corner. In the 90s, we had things called investigative journalism. And this is basically what they did. Where like they didn't just cover the thing that was happening today.
I
know.
They
like went into the trenches and spent months often like talking to people and getting facts and doing
pretending to be somebody.
Right. And then they would
undercover
release a big reporting. Yes, undercover.
I know.
That's
amazing.
They did. So it was basically what we're describing. We're reinventing investigative journalism.
I know. I know.
I have paid recently for a few things that are doing more of that in support of these things.
That's cool.
Like there's like the 404 Media, and
you're a real patron of the arts.
Yeah, this is one of the things you can do is to like subscribe to things that are doing real journalism. So that's what I do.
Including lastweeksnews.com, written by Aaron Francis and an army of LLMs.
Subscribe to that if you want to put in the time. You got plenty of time. Why don't you give me last week's news?
Definitely don't have time to focus on the news. Good
Wire
Lord.
Up the LLMs
of all things I don't have time for, it's to create a news website, for goodness sakes. Geez. Here's a blast from the 90s news past. If you came to this podcast expecting Aaron's big day off, you're in for you're in for a treat because we're going down News Corner. Do you remember Peter Jennings?
I was watching Peter Jennings during the attacks on 9/11. That was my guy. I love Peter Jennings, and I grew up streaming on Peter scraggly stream.
Yes.
September 11th, 2001. I'm on the scraggly stream.
And he, awesome for the first time after a long time, he smoked a cigarette because he was he was a big smoker, died of lung cancer. Big smoker, stopped and had this huge abstinence of smoking. And then September 11th happened and it broke him and he started smoking again. Yep. Crazy. I grew up on Peter Jennings. Peter Jennings was like a trusted voice in our household.
I'm kind of surprised you're old enough to remember Peter Jennings.
My parents, because of their generation, had the news on every single night.
You got the half an hour, an hour.
Local news and then world news. World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. And to tie it back to a catchphrase, you can just do things. You know what I did? You know what I did? There's
Peter Jennings fan site.
Peter Jennings fan site. There's a CNN anchor named Jake Tapper that I watched a lot more news in like 2016, 2015, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I got Peter Jennings vibes from Jake Tapper. I was like, you seem right down the middle. You seem to like hold both sides to account. You seem very trustworthy, Jake Tapper. And so I sent an email to all of the email addresses I could think of that would possibly be Jake Tapper's email. And sent an email that just was like Peter Jennings, I think was the subject line. Sent it to like, Jake.Tapper at Turner Media, Jake.Tapper at CNN. Sent it to all of these email addresses. Jake Tapper responded.
Whoa.
He responded and said something like, I wonder if I have it. I certainly have it. It's Gmail. Man, why would I not have it?
I love this.
Jake Tapper.
We're doing it.
Here we go.
You got it.
Tapper, Jake from Jake Tapper.
So this is 26-year-old Aaron Francis.
This is July 28th of 2016. The subject line is Peter Jennings, and I sent it to Jake.Tapper at Turner.com and Jake Tapper at CNN. I got a couple. I got one mail delivery subsystem failure, so obviously one of them didn't work. And I just said, hey, when I was growing up, Peter Jennings was always on. I can't help but be reminded of Peter Jennings when I watch you. You're crushing, or like you're holding both sides to account. Keep it up. You're doing a great job. And he responded and said, "This made my week. Thank you so much." 4 exclamation points sent from my iPhone.
Wow.
I got a freaking response from Jake Tapper.
Isn't
that
so
crazy?
Cool. You can just do things. You've been just doing things for decades.
And I emailed, you want another one? Let's do another one.
Mark, we're going through Aaron's email on this episode. What's better podcasting than that? We're going to go through somebody's
I'm reading
emails
archive. Out on the radio. Yeah. This is great. I emailed Mark Cuban. And yeah, so he's somehow mcuban@gmail.com.
Are you going with the entrepreneur angle? Are you going with the basketball angle?
So I used to have a solo podcast. Solo podcast where I would read articles and then basically like offer my commentary on them. So May 18th, 2015, just cold email. Sent it to 2 email addresses again because I didn't know.
What a hacker this guy is. You're in the wrong career.
I'm a social engineer. So I sent, hey, Mark, I was wondering if I could have your permission to read your post, the title of the post, on a podcast I'm starting on the show. This is hysterical. On the show, I read important articles and talk about why I like them. Parentheses, complicated concept, huh? Can I have your permission? And he responded 5 minutes later. 5 minutes.
He seems like that kind of guy. He's just like, he's on his email all the time. He's reading the email.
He said, sure, no problem. That was it. And I responded, thanks, Mark.
You can just do things.
Like we're buds.
I can't wait for you to publish a book of all these. It's just going to be a book of your emails where you reach out to people randomly and then they respond, affirmatively. And it's just like an affirmation book of like all these things you just tried to do and that they just happened because you asked.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I just had this conversation last night with my 14-year-old. He's in this basketball camp thing, and the coach said, the trainer was like, I might have a spot on the team for you in the summer. Like last week he said that. So we're like, all right, this week you didn't get his info, you didn't get any details. You got to get his info and his details, right?
Yep.
So he comes out after I pick him up. Of course, he hasn't gotten the info. So I'm like, you should go back in, right? So he mans up, he goes back in, he gets the details, right? And on the way home, I literally had this exact conversation. I was like, listen, like, being brave and putting yourself out there is how people are successful. There's always smarter people.
Yes.
There's always people better than you at every single job. You're never going to be the best at anything. I haven't been the best at anything ever. But sometimes in key moments, you just have to be brave and take the bull by the horns. And those are the people who get the rewards because you took the chance when other people, the thing that actually going to separate you is taking a chance when everybody else who's better than you is too scared to take a chance. Like,
correct.
That is how you succeed.
Agency, not intelligence, that matters.
Yes. So
you have
we had this whole conversation.
I've told you I'm writing a book. That is the premise. That's the premise.
Oh,
that's the whole premise right there. That is
it. Of course, it makes perfect sense.
That's the synopsis.
That's the book. Yeah.
That's right. That's good dad advice. That's dad, not business dad.
That's dad. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Down in the dad trenches there.
That's
14-year-old.
You are correct, and he would be well served to learn that as early as possible.
Yeah, it felt like a good age to start to be like, all right, this is the real world, right?
Yes.
Like, let's have a real world conversation where it's not all fun and games, and this is how people actually get ahead, right? So
that is exactly right.
Okay, we got to do a quick little rating. Before we even get back to Aaron's day off.
Oh, wow.
I need you an order. I need the order.
Yeah.
Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, right? Those were the big three in that generation.
Peter first for sure. And then I think Dan Rather.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy. The only thing we've ever agreed on.
I would go Dan Rather.
The old heads, 90s news anchors is finally something we agreed on.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know why. It's just like vibes. Yeah. Like it just was the right answer. I felt it. I knew it.
I'm not a CBS guy. I'm definitely way more of an NBC guy than a CBS guy.
See, I don't even know. I remember Peter Jennings was ABC because that was in our house. I don't know the affiliations of the other two. I don't remember them.
Dan Rather, CBS. And, Tom Brokaw's NBC.
NBC. Okay. Man, what a time. That was
that's a nice walk down memory lane there.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, so Aaron Francis' day off.
I'm barely checked in at this point. I'm barely checked in. We have gotten through no part.
You're early
no part of this vacation have we gotten through. So I check in. The concierge comes around and hands me a little coupon and says you can get 2 cocktails or 2 coffees on us.
Whoa.
And I'm like, this is great. I wonder why this is. I have no idea. It's a nice hotel, so maybe they just like do that for everyone. But I don't know. It was great. Felt like a king. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go drink these 2 cocktails.
And you never
for free.
even found out. You
never even found out.
Okay, they were just being cordial.
They're just being cordial. There's a small chance they've got some sort of like CRM thing, and they looked me up and are like, oh, he's got a bunch of Twitter followers.
I guess that's
sorry,
possible.
Not a travel influencer. Good luck, but thanks for the free drinks. So that's possible, but it's probably just fancy hotel in Dallas on a Monday morning, and they were like, we got nothing going on here.
Right.
So checked in. Turns out all the restaurants nearby are closed because it was a Monday, which I don't know. What's the deal with restaurants? Like, do people not eat on Mondays? So frustrating. I don't get it.
Weird. I know. I think they're open all weekend, but like,
I don't care.
Sometimes you want to eat on a restaurant.
Yeah, get back to work. So I walked down the street, just, walkable city. I walked down the street, got a burger. It's great. Love a burger. Sat there. Then I went back to the
fast
hotel.
Food burger? Or
no, sit in like little downtown restaurant burger. Yeah.
Okay.
It was great. Loved it. And then what did I do? I sat in the lobby, so it was super fancy lobby. Sat in the lobby with a little coffee, and I read a comic book. I read Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin
real 90s, just real 90s show today.
Full 90s, yeah.
Yeah, so I sat down there and just like reminisced about what it was like to be a kid, and then thought, oh, you got to get out of this, man. This is sad. You got to do something else.
Well, especially Calvin and Hobbes too. It's so
it's
orient.
So pure.
He's a kid and the whole thing.
Just the wonder of being a 6-year-old boy. I know. God,
I don't know.
We can't go back. It's a one-way trip. So. Yep. Then I went to the bar, and natural, should have had a little more of a segue there. Everything was fine, so I went to the bar, and got out my yellow notepad, my yellow notepad and my zebra pen, and had a couple of drinks, and put in my headphones, and just wrote my plans to like conquer the world, and like wrote it all down, and it was very cathartic. Yeah. Super, super helpful. Wrote it all out, everything I want to do, everything I feel like I've been doing well, everything I've been doing poorly, how to correct that. Very, very helpful. And then, kind of just puttered around, had an early dinner, and then I hooked up squirreled behind the TV, found the HDMI, unplugged it, plugged it into my computer, put my headphone, like had my AirPods paired to my computer, TV on, took a drink up from dinner, took it up to the room. It's great. And I had a drink and watched Sicario 2 in bed. And it was great. I could hear everything because it was like in my AirPods. I didn't have to like turn it up super loud and then turn it down when it got loud. It was great. It was perfect. So much fun.
I love AirPods with TV. This is a big hack I have. Like at night, even the wife's sleeping, whatever, throwing the AirPods, like everything's crystal clear. Yeah,
crystal
like,
clear.
Oh, it's like I can't hear. They're talking quietly, whatever. Like, nope, boom, AirPods. Fantastic. Okay, so that sounds like it went well.
It went well. Next morning, I woke up late, which was awesome. Went down and had another coffee at the fancy spot and just kind of sat there and watched the world go by. It was crazy. It's such a weird feeling to just be like, I don't have anywhere to be. Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah. And then left at checkout. So I left at 11, which was fine. Jennifer was like, oh, I thought you would like try to, stay around all day. I was like, well, I left and then came to the studio. If I was leaving and like going back to some of the chaos at home, I would have been like, well, what if I go grab a long lunch, maybe? Right. But I left, came back to the studio, hung out here, and then I was on a podcast with Wes Boss. I was on the Syntax podcast, which has not come out yet.
Okay, I was like, I missed that, but I didn't.
But yeah, so that was, podcast with Ian, big vacation, podcast with Wes, bookends. It was perfect. It was a staycation is ideal. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, because also you can do it short, right? It's like when you go somewhere, you're like going for 1 day or 2 days kind of sucks, It's like all this travel and bulls crap to like get out there and all the planning and everything. It was like drive downtown, stay for a night, maximize your times, nothing's lost to travel. Yeah, it's perfect. So all right, so it's the full reset. He's
full
ready
reset.
To conquer the world now.
Ready to conquer the world.
I think that your day off is brought to us.
Oh, nice.
Brought to us by Bento. Send your email faster. The email platform for modern marketing. I know. I don't do this one. This is your one.
You don't do this one. Okay, back it up. That story was brought to you by. Now go. You do it.
It's all stated anyway, but we're gonna do it again.
It's great.
Brought to you by Bento. Email platform for modern marketing teams. Friend of the show. Friend of Aaron Francis, friend of Laravel News moved to them. Eric's been singing their praises over at Laravel News. Check out Bento. BentoNow.com.
Flawless. No notes. No notes. Great job.
I still don't know about reading all these separately. I think they'd be better together.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it. What are we thinking? So we've had the few weeks of separate. We got friend of the show, Matt Swanson, sending some feedback, which was good, always helpful. Matt is the number one podcast reply guy who always has good. Oh, he's also been a co-host. I forgot about that.
He's been on the show. Yeah.
Always has good advice. And so, what are you feeling about the interspersed ads? Let's talk about this.
I feel like it's very. I don't know. The audience, I think, is probably going to be split a little both ways. Yeah, but I think so. As the podcaster, I find it a little bit disruptive to have to remember always to like interject, and then we have to do the interjection, and then we have to get back. Our style is we kind of flow from topic to topic.
We do,
right? And so I feel like it creates a little bit of a break in that flow where we can't naturally transition, because like basically at every transition in the show we have to do an ad to get them all in. And right now we only have 3. Like if we have a month with 6, we have
a month with 6. That's going to be 2. That's going to be. We would have to do.
We would definitely have to group them or something. Yeah, for sure. But even at 3, I feel like it's like, well, now we're just doing this one read, and like, I don't know. What do you think?
Here's, I buy that. Here's what I think we should try to do next week. So far. So far the ads have kind of been a storyline of the show, right? Like, are we going to do them? Yes. Ian has this great idea. How do we do it? Now we're doing it. Let's talk about how we're doing it. So we've been hanging a lantern on it, which is a theater term. I'm led to believe.
I like that. Yeah, I think you're right.
We've been hanging a lantern on it. I wonder how it would feel if we just executed on them and moved on, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder how it would feel if it was just like, do the ad, then don't talk about the ad and just move on. Like, keep it a little tighter. You know what I mean?
I think then, do you think we would need to, like, in our Trello board with our topics, which we don't always go in order there either, but do we, like, I almost feel like then the ad should be there, right? So it's like, okay, we're ending this topic. This is the one we're doing, like, and we're just going to do it. It has our name next to it. Whoever's going to do the read.
That's probably a good idea. So in that case, you would have said like, hey, thanks for bento, blah, blah, blah. All right. So Aaron, what's the deal with, and we just kind of like, just
do the transition,
run over it, right? Basically.
Yeah. We can try that.
Let's try that. So next week, here's what we'll try. We will.
Well, we have two more ads this week.
You gotta give me some warning. I'm all mentally prepared to be folksy about the ads, not be a professional.
Okay, we'll start next week.
Try it. Let's start it. Let's try it. So we'll do it this week. This will also be good next week because we'll have 3 ads, hopefully at least 3 per month, and it'll be good to put them in different order. And putting them in Trello will help us do that.
Yes, to be more set with that. Yeah, next month we do have 3 again.
All right, that's great.
But beyond that, there's availability. So get out there and advertise on the show, you people.
Yeah, buy some ads.
Look at all this airtime you're getting.
Yeah, it's not going to be this way again. But look at what you're getting.
$1,000 4 shows generally.
Okay, yeah, I like that. All right, so the next one is going to be me. I will do it justice, but then that is all we will do, and we'll keep moving. So let's try that. How's that feel?
We'll attempt to do that.
Okay. Woo.
All right.
That's good. That's how the sausage is made, folks.
I like the behind the scenes. Laravel Cloud?
Hit me. Give me your so we had a big Tuesday, right? We had, or I guess it was maybe it was a big Monday.
I think it was Monday. Yeah.
Laravel Cloud, Laravel 12, Laravel starter kits, VS Code extension goes 1.0. Hit me with some takes. What did you think about any of it?
Here's a take for you. The VS Code. So I was able to now go back to Cursor because the VS Code update that allows you to click through to the blade file definitions is like super massive. Because like without that, I was like, I can't even use it. I'm always going back and forth between the blade files.
Yep.
Especially because I've been mostly more of these days working on like just websites and stuff and less even apps. And so like it just was too crazy. And like I just need to be able to click right there. I don't want to search for the file. I just want to click. And so now you can click and it's like, boom, great. So that's been awesome. I still think it's still not all the way. Like it doesn't like auto, like if you need to import something from namespace, it doesn't like know how to fix that for you and things like that. So I still think there's like some stuff that is not as good as PHP Storm, but I'm sure they'll get there and they're getting there with that. So so anyway, that's my little shout out to those guys. I think that's awesome.
Shout out Joe T. I feel like that's been his project for a long time. The poor guy.
Yeah, he's been on it for a while. But yeah, Laravel. I mean, I used Cloud for the first time to deploy the kind of new HelpSpot website, which is not live yet, but the kind of first draft of it, so that the designer could design it and do designery things. So I was like, I started on Forge and I actually had some kind of problem, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, why don't I just put this in Laravel Cloud? So I put it in Laravel Cloud, and that was super smooth.
It is, right?
Yeah, really good.
They did a very good job.
Yeah, like obviously this is just like whatever. A basic website that one person is accessing right now, so I haven't got to use it in more violence than that, but the whole deployment connection stuff seems really good, and like the interface is great, and it definitely seems like, I mean, it's just going to be the default mechanism. I think you're going to launch anything with Laravel. It's definitely the main path, right? Like I think there'll still be reasons to use Forge for certain things and so on, but where you're just like got a side project, you got a new project, you got a moderate size SaaS, like I feel like like this is just what you're going to want to do because it's just so integrated and easy and has all the stuff you need to do it. They even got MySQL out. If you're a MySQL person, that's available.
Shout out Fideloper. I don't know if he's slept since Laracon EU when Taylor was. I guess Taylor didn't mention MySQL at that point, but at some point Taylor tweeted like, "Oh yeah, we'll probably have MySQL early access, when we launch." And I thought, "Oh brother, oh good luck, Chris."
Which I don't even know. I guess the way I wonder. I haven't looked into this at all, but I don't know if I can't imagine you're I assume you could still use RDS server that you acquire on your own.
Yes.
I wonder how that works. I assume you can.
You certainly can. From my understanding as an outsider, you lose just the env injection, which is fine because you can just go write it yourself. Nobody cares. Right. And you have to be careful that you pick the same region that your compute, that cloud has put your compute in, and you pick where cloud puts your compute. So that's totally fine. And then the other, I would have to imagine the other drawback is you can't put cloud's resources inside of VPC with your resources.
Right. It's gonna have to be outside.
So it's got to go over the internet, which is I don't care about. Goodness, I super don't care about that. But a lot of corporations and a lot of like security people super do care about that. So I have to imagine, and I'm just making stuff up. I have to imagine at some point they will at least look into like VPC peering, a bunch of stuff that I'll be honest, I have no idea what it is or how it works. We're just making up words. I saw someone once
VPC
say
peering,
VPC peering, and I was like,
that
should
makes
write
sense.
that down.
I'm sure that's what we need.
Podcast one day. But I have to imagine they'll look into stuff like that for people that want to like have more complicated resources inside their AWS account and communicate with like their web servers and stuff. But yeah, I don't know,
because that gives you things obviously that I think they're using like the serverless Aurora. I assume. I don't even know. I didn't look that closely, but I assume it's not. They're running big database servers. I assume they're.
That's right. I don't think
it's not the serverless.
I don't think it is for MySQL. Yeah, I don't think it's serverless Aurora. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
I've been wrong once before, but I think it's either it might just be MySQL on Kubernetes. It might not even be RDS.
They're spinning up their own little mini.
I don't know. We should have Fideloper weigh in. Because I can't speak to that for sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Man, that seems like it's gonna be a lot of work for them. That doesn't seem like something they'd want to take on. Yeah, because like when there's minor version updates, are you stranded, or are they automating the updating of all these? I told Tom at Laracon EU,
I said, y'all are going to become a database company that also hosts Laravel,
right?
And he was like, yeah, maybe, because there is no other. There's one MySQL host, and we don't
recommend them.
No, we don't recommend them. Nobody else is doing it. Like you can't go anywhere else and be like, hey, I want
AWS does it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but nobody else is doing. We've got 50 Postgres providers that are like, hey, we'll innovate
business.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? Like
we'll innovate on top of AWS or like on top of whatever. And there's only one that has said for MySQL, hey, we will innovate on top of commodity hosting. Right. And why isn't anybody else doing it? Laravel's going to be the new MySQL database company.
Maybe that's what they're doing. Okay, I wouldn't have thought that would be their angle, but maybe that is going to be the case. Interesting.
I mean, I have no idea if that is their strategy.
Right.
I think that is like they might accidentally become the second largest MySQL database host in the space.
Right. Well, I do think there is a thing where like it seems pretty clear like their goal, right, is to have big enterprisey type customers, and the enterprisey type customers are going to need things that the kind of baseline, simple, small customers don't need. And sophisticated databasing is going to be one of those things, certainly. So so you can see that, and that's obviously a huge money. I mean, the other nice thing about databases is you can charge a ridiculous amount of money for them. So margins there are nice,
especially if, and we don't know this to be true, but especially if they're not using RDS under the hood. Like if they're just using EC2 and Kubernetes and something else, then their Laravel's operating costs go way down because EC2 is just cheaper than RDS, because you then have to like basically build RDS on top of it.
Right. At a certain scale, it's cheaper. Like at the if you're going to need a team of people and database people and all this infrastructure, right, all kinds of stuff. But then once you have that, then yes, like obviously if you're paying RDS for all that service, then you're giving them most of your profits. If you do it yourself, presumably there will be more profits at some
want to know a business I don't want to be in? database hosting.
That's not a good business.
Can you imagine? It's just like, here, I'm going to hand you the most important part of my company. Yeah. Don't mess it up. No. Yep. No way.
Every server's tied to it. It's often just set up as like a single point of failure because it's too expensive not to, or whatever, or you're paying for the hot failover. But even then, to have that is super complicated because it'll also be real time. Blah blah blah.
F that. Like, no way.
Yeah. See, that's where it's going to be hard. It's so hard to out RDS because they just can do magic that I don't think anybody else can really do. It's like, yeah, we're going to have this hot backup because at the network level, we're going to ship these packets to different places. And like, I don't know, like MySQL itself doesn't do that. Like, obviously MySQL has its own convoluted, sharing master setup type stuff, but that has its own weird hiccups and things. Like, I don't know, I guess there's like, you could have a proxy server in the middle and do something. I don't know. It just seems like though they're at the hardware doing it. You know what I mean? Like they're there in the switches being like, now this we're gonna route it. Like,
I will say the worst part about getting laid off from a database company and then still being in the database space is, unfortunately, that database company, their product is incredible.
There you go.
That's the worst part. I hate that for me. Hate that. I wish it was terrible. I wish the product sucked. Unfortunately, the product is amazing. And so, like, I actually kind of think they're out RDSing RDS. I really do. And I think it is doable because I think RDS, I think RDS is the primitive that other people should be building on top of and not the primitive that like normies should be using. Now, I think database companies are actually better served to sidestep RDS and build it themselves on EC2.
Right.
But in typical AWS fashion, they don't go all the way to UI, UX, like ease of use. They give you all of the knobs and switches and are like, you're an expert.
Right.
Build something on top of this.
There's no support. There's no anything.
No.
You're on your own. Yeah.
So in a way, I think it's very easy to out RDS depending on what axis you're measuring. If you're measuring on like, the ability to get lower level, that's hard to beat RDS because they own the stuff. But if you're measuring on the ability to like have a better product, it's kind of easy because you're competing against, AWS's console.
That part definitely is, right? Like that part, I'm sure like the other company that shall not be named has obviously a much better user experience in terms of the I go in and click around and manage my server and all that stuff. I don't know. There's still, it's in there. It's inside AWS. You know what I mean? Like it's in there.
I know. Nobody ever got fired for buying AWS is the other thing. Like you have to convince a suit somewhere. Like, no, trust me, we're also good. And that's hard.
Yeah. BC back. Is it profitable? Is it going to be in business in 3? What's worse than being forced to move your database in 3 years on potentially extremely short notice? Like that's not getting fired type stuff right there, right? So like big
that's a fool me once situation. Right. That is, I'm never trusting another database provider again.
Right.
Like that's how I feel about our payment processing. I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna use Stripe. Right. Forget all these other intermediaries. I'm just going to use Stripe because fool me once. And so, that's a tough row to hoe for sure. But so whether or not Laravel eventually offers outside database hosting, very open question. But they've taken on the burden of hosting inside database hosting, which is no small feat. So, but as John Hamm and Mad Men would say, that's what the money is for, right? Like that is why Laravel took the money so that they could take these responsibilities on and feel confident about fulfilling them.
Yeah,
because you can't be a database hosting company with one guy in Arkansas and like 3 scattered across the rest of the world. You got to have 50 people. You got to have 60 people to like do that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. So what's your take on cloud? So I thought it was great. Used it a little bit. So far, so good. Kind of everything I would expect.
Cloud's
great.
I'll opine on other things, but cloud is great. I have been using it for a little while just to like help, suss out some things. I know. In Harvard. Yeah, it's a great tweet.
Yeah, you got a
Cloud's been used by people like Harvard and Aaron D. Francis, and I'm like,
you never thought that would happen.
Yeah, we're the same. Same kind of level of sophistication. Cloud's great. I think let's talk about Laravel 12 and starter kits. And of course, Laravel.com redesign. Forgot about that. That was another big one. They redesigned the whole Laravel.com.
Oh man, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is.
That's a transition point. It feels transition-y.
Let's talk about 12 and then we'll transition to Laravel.com. Doing a great job of not hanging a lantern on it, aren't we? So 12, great. Yeah. Minor release, which, major version, but minor release. We love that. No breaking changes. It is a little as trying to be a good open source boy. It is a little like, I got to go update all these packages to support 12. Right. Fortunately, Jason McCreary, Laravel Shift, has opened a lot of PRs to community packages, which is very helpful. Awesome. Yeah, it's very helpful. I think he did like 5,000. Truly, not a bit. Yeah, I think he did like 5,000. And so I got several of those on some of my repositories, and that made it pretty straightforward. There's always still something where it's like, I got to go in here and do this manually, or like, I've kind of neglected this, and like I need to like tune it up a little bit. Some and so other stuff, yeah, that was not terribly fun, but feels good now. It's one of those things where it's like a discrete unit, and I can be like, I have now done this and I feel good about it. It's
accomplished. Check.
Yeah. Okay. So that part is nice. The starter kits, I like what they're doing now, where the starter kits are Git repos instead of like, let me install a bunch of stuff and hide it in my vendor directory or something. It's just like, no, just clone the repo, and now it's yours. Like, good luck, have fun.
The best way to do it.
I think that's the way that it should be done.
Every time I've used one, it's always like, it was like, oh, there's this stuff here, and then but like I can't, some of the stuff you can't get at or whatever. It's like sort of weird. What's mine? What's theirs? And all that stuff. So yeah, you can just hack away at it. And
eventually, with every starter kit, every UI framework, every anything, you have to eject and do it yourself. Right. And so making it from the beginning, like there's no ejection point, because from the beginning you own it. I feel like that's probably the way to go.
And there's just not that much upside to the connection of like, you're going to import some new big feature. Like, it's like a starter kit, and you don't want them making this huge change that messes with your app 2 years from now. Like that would be a disaster, right? So like, it's great. It's like, this is a starter kit. I'm starting with it.
Yep.
It's going to diverge as they add other niceties, but also what are they really going to add? Like, there's only so much they can add as a starter kit. Like, they can only go so far.
That I haven't built in the intervening time, and now you're coming in with your version, and it is a conflict with mine, and I agree.
So I think
this is clearly the way to go.
Yeah,
Tony Lee is the starter kit guy, and he is very talented and has been for a long time. And now he's internal at Laravel doing starter kits, and I think it's just the perfect setup. So yeah, the new Laravel.com. But before we get there, This segment is brought to you by Moonbase Labs. We're the rocket fuel your Laravel project needs to reach escape velocity. Houston, we have a solution at moonbaselabs.com. Thanks to Moonbase for sponsoring this show. So the Laravel.com redesign. You said there's a lot there. What is there, Ian? Tell me. What is there?
So I really like it, but the only thing I really dislike the scroll jacking.
Scroll jacking.
You get the little animation, but like it actually is working better for me today. Like actually, when it launched, it actually like kind of didn't. It like really didn't work. I don't know if they.
I couldn't get past it. I couldn't scroll.
Yeah, I couldn't get past it either. I was like, oh, this is not working.
Unstuck.
Yeah. So okay. So it wasn't just me. So yeah. So it does seem like they've I guess sped it up. It seems sped up, or maybe it was just broken before. I don't know. But besides that, I really like once you get past the scroll jacking part, which at least. Like smartly, that's only like the top is like animation, and then it's normal scrolling after that. Like I like those sections and how it's broken off. It's a lot, which is sort of interesting, like a little change from what they've had in the past. Like it's like, I mean, they do a lot now, I guess. It's like part of it, but there's a lot there. But it kind of covers the big pieces, I think, pretty well. And I like how it's like code. And it's like here's the code for the thing you're doing, and like how clean and easy all that is. So I liked all that. What are your thoughts there?
I think it's gorgeous, first of all. I think it looks amazing. I I think it highlights the ecosystem quite well, which this is a challenge, I think, when you are as big as Laravel. Like, there's just so much to cover. Like, you have a bunch of stuff you got to say and a bunch of stuff you got to like tell people about, and so your information density needs to be pretty high, and you have to have a good way to like show it all off. I think this does a better job of that. And I think it just looks way better. My only complaint is the scroll jacking. And I'm not even like a Hacker News hater. Like, I'm not like, oh, it doesn't work without my JavaScript on. I'm like, get over it. Like, you're being an idiot. Like, use JavaScript. So I consider myself to be a reasonableist. Yes. And even I am like, oh, did it freeze? Like, what's going on? Oh no, I need to keep scrolling. So that's the only thing that I would change on the homepage, is like, let me just scroll past this stuff. Like,
yeah, I think so. I don't think like that animation adds enough, you know.
I don't think
there's so much good stuff below it that like you'd hate for people to miss, because they're like,
and I will say the let's like hold the animation out. That graphic itself is beautiful.
Oh, it's
like
awesome.
the build, awesome. Deploy monitor with the logos and the boxes. Either just make it an animation or make it a static image, but don't make it a scroll activated image. You know, keep the image because it's stunning, but yeah, the interaction is a little weird. And then when you get to the bottom and you keep scrolling and the testimonials start to scroll side to side based on your vertical scroll, that's where I'm like, what? Wait, what's going on? How did I end up in this situation?
That one didn't bother me so much, only because it's like, it's at the bottom.
Super,
whatever. I think one of the things I actually really like best, probably the best thing actually, is just the top navigation. I think they like kind of nail the top navigation. I just love how there's like products. Here is like the products. Very clearly, right? Like the open source stuff, everything has like this nice logo now, and it's all like kind of awesome and cool. And I think laid out well there. And then the developer section I love, like it's got all like Laravel news and jobs and upcoming events and Laracast thing there and everything. Like, it's like perfect, like you're a developer, where to start, right? Here's the docs, here's the resources so you can learn better, here's the community stuff, like it's all right there. So I thought that was really good.
And the new package logos are awesome.
I
love really those cool little isometric things. I think those are awesome.
Do you know who is this Hugo, or do you want to know who designed
I don't
the
know.
homepage, or?
I don't know. I don't know if it was all David or David and Hugo, or somebody else on the. I know Hugo's been doing a lot of stuff on Cloud, but so's David. So I don't know. I feel like
I feel
like they're all kind of working on everything. Yeah. But whoever did it, hats off. It looks great. You did a fantastic job. And I think this is like, not only is it like aesthetically pleasing, I do think this is necessary. Like, this is very important for obviously their business, but also our community to have, like, we've talked extensively about how much PHP.NET sucks. And this is like, hey, don't actually ever go to PHP.NET. Just like go to Laravel is the PHP ecosystem. Like, let's just go there. And to have something this high quality, I think does lend like an air of credibility to the ecosystem as a whole. The old site was great, but this is just like way better.
This is next level, And then I don't know if, I guess Forge didn't get a new site, but Cloud obviously has its
Cloud got its big release.
Great. And then I don't know if Nightwatch. I think Nightwatch is the same as it was, just kind of the landing page. But,
which is also beautifully designed.
Yes, I think it's kind of interesting too. Like the Laravel.com is like just kind of white, clean, and then the like breakout sites are more colorful. It's kind of like a different vibe between them, which is like good distinction there. I producer Dave set up a call, I think after Laracon EU, he would talk to like Jess or something. But anyway, had a call yesterday with Nightwatch.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, with Jess and Philip. That was cool. Giving them our like crazy help spot setup, so that they can keep it in mind for Nightwatch stuff. in the future.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I heard somebody at Laracon EU talking to Jess, and they're like, yeah, so we've got like 3,000 servers, and I'm like, good effing Lord. Like the stuff that, I don't know, the stuff that real businesses do is just so foreign kind of to me as like an adorable little hobbyist, you know. It's just like, you have 3,000 servers, and I'm sure HelpSpot has, you know, many
350 to 400 depending on how you count it. Yeah,
and y'all's is probably even more esoteric because it's out in the wild, you know. Like, I know you're trying to bring a lot of it back home, but it's like, you got a lot of people doing their own thing. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad y'all talked to them. That product is going to be next level. It's going to be next level.
Because it's also like the first, like, not just hosting, you know. It's like, this is way outside. Like, it's a full app. It's not hosting. And they're the Australian. I just love Australians, man. Number
they're
one in the world. Australians.
Number one.
Number two, Canadians. Those are my top two, and then like obviously United States, way down the list.
Oh, we're easily top 50 though, for sure.
I think we're lower than 50.
I don't know.
Maybe top 50, fine.
On the freaking awesome scale, we're number one. But on everything else, we're comfortably
Australians are so good,
50.
man. They're so good. I love Australians.
They're so good.
I wish it wasn't so far away. Like I still haven't been there.
Who's working on that?
Place I would love to move, but it's so far away. Like,
it's too far away.
You got to come back for anything. Like, you got a family thing or whatever. It's like, I got to go 30 hours of travel to get back.
You know, we're getting supersonic travel thanks to Y Combinator. So at some point,
Elon Musk.
No, he's rockets. This is Boom. This is a proper airplane company. Yeah, I know you were doing a thing, and I wasn't gonna have it. Yeah, nope, no sir, not on my watch. So maybe we can
go though.
Oh, so far because it's so fast. Far and fast are similar.
You like gas though, you know.
Yeah, I can't speak to that, but hopefully at some point we'll be able to get down to Australia.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of good Laravel folks down there, aren't there?
There are, yeah.
What's the deal? What's in the water down in Australia?
I don't know how this all happened. Like,
besides crocodiles and snakes and stuff.
One of them got in. Like, I don't know if Jess got in there and then like built it out, or if it was established on its own, like, you know, just Darwinian sort of situation.
Oh,
but
maybe
like,
wasn't he like around there? I guess he was a different island. Yeah, he's over there, right?
I don't think he went to Australia, did he? I don't know.
Who knows? But probably too far away.
In that zone, isn't the Pacific somewhere, which is, you know.
That counts.
Yeah.
I don't know where Duluth is. I don't know where Darwin did his studies. No way. Are you kidding me? Not a chance. Yeah, so good Monday for Laravel. Good releases. Good job, team. Very proud of the team. It's big. I feel like it's an inflection point. Taylor's right now. He's in the studio with Primeagen. Like somehow 10, 12 years later, it's like, oh, Laravel's on the map now. It's like, guys, we've been here. What's going on? It's crazy.
Taylor's traveling a lot now. He must be getting those miles. You know, he's got the miles. He's gonna be able to be flying first class for free all over just on the miles from the work travel.
You know, when COO Tom, when captain of the basketball team Tom comes in, it's like, Taylor, you gotta go do this thing. You go do the thing.
Gotta go on Prime.
There's a 0% chance that Tom is telling Taylor to go travel.
Definitely not the Prime anyway.
No,
that doesn't seem like Tom's angle.
No, man. Tom is the best. I talked to him at Laracon EU, and he was still talking about the basketball game, and I was like, this guy's a competitor. I freaking love it. He was so funny. So shout out Tom. Good guy Tom.
Yeah.
All right.
One more friend of the show, Packetly. Prevent malicious content by using our simple S3 compatible content identification API. Learn more at packetly.com. Thanks so much, Packetly. Okay, I had one other topic here.
Tell me.
You were listening to Sanderson on Tim Ferriss.
Sanderson.
Did you actually get through the whole thing?
Got through the whole thing. Got through the whole thing.
So now are you on board with Sanderson? Because you haven't read any Sanderson.
Here's what I'll tell you I'm on board with. 1000% on board with Sanderson as a person. I am withholding judgment on the books simply because I haven't read them yet, but I am, after I finish what I'm currently listening to, Sanderson is next, because I'm so like on board with him.
That's
as a
great
person.
to hear.
It's great. He's awesome.
You're gonna love it. He's right up your alley because he's a very positive. Like he in his fantasy battles and things. Like there are the killing and stuff, but like at the end, there's a hopeful thread through all of Sanderson's writing.
I love that.
I think you'll enjoy.
Need that in my life. And he was talking about like, what if we did a fantasy book that was also a heist? And I was like,
yeah, that's
a heist.
You should start with Mistborn. Yeah,
a heist. Are you telling me there might be something fast and something furious about this book? I love a heist. So yeah, he definitely hooked me with that premise. Sanderson the person is very like pragmatic, considered, reasonable, like good observer of the world as it is, and like adapts himself to that. Just lots of good talk about like the publishing industry and connecting directly with fans, and well, how do I adapt to the changing world instead of rail against it? And I was just like, this guy is very, very smart. And you know, of course, funny and personable and all the things required to be famous, but like also very pragmatic and very smart.
Yeah, super pragmatic. I think this is a huge thing that separates him from other authors. He was like, he sees the changes, but you know, he's like, all right, well, we have to start our own company so that we can do things that we need to do. First, you know, most authors just want to like sign a deal and then write books.
Yep.
You know, it's like a lot of programmers, right? Like, I just want to be responsible for these classes in this application. I just want to show up every day and code those classes and fix bugs and go home. Like, which is
a fine way to live, but that's not what I want.
Right. And not, you know, it does limit you in some ways often, right? So like Sanderson was like, nope, we can't like totally be dependent on the big 4 publishing houses or whatever it is. And so we have our own company, and now that's like paid off hugely because now he has all kinds of stuff that he is reaping all the rewards from, or the majority of the rewards from, instead of, you know, the 5% or whatever he gets on selling a book the traditional way. And he's a huge, like, you could just do stuff too. Like, I think he gets into it in there where like he's like, they did this big Kickstarter and he pretended he was like dying or quitting writing or whatever, and then surprised everybody with 4 novels, right? And like he's like, yeah, it's COVID, I'll just write extra novels because why not? And then
even the like, that was a good shtick about like, I've been embroiled in some scandal, but like that's like a surface level shtick. Like anybody could do that. That's craft, that's art, that's like, you know, that's the game. But the fact, like the enduring or like the durable moat is like, I wrote 4 books and didn't tell anyone.
Right. That's the moat for sure.
Incredible. Right. Like you hook him in with a little bit of flash, a little bit of sizzle, a little bit of like fake controversy, and then you're like, by the way, the real meat and potatoes is I wrote 4 books and you get them all now. And that's unbelievable. That's great. I love that.
And especially because like part of his whole shtick to begin with is like, he's a very fast writer. And he has this whole system where he tracks his words every day, and that keeps him motivated. And so he writes these huge novels in a remarkably short time for the size that they are. Yeah. And he's often, while he's writing the biggest ones, he's also has like little novellas, which aren't even, which are almost full novel size. He's got all this other stuff he's writing. So he's insanely productive, right? So just for him to then show up with 4 extra novels, while on the one hand you're like, oh yeah, well, he's a fast writer, but on the other hand, it's like he's already producing.
He's
like
already
4 times as much as the other people, right? And so where did he find 4 novels of time? And these are full-size novels. These are not like, oh, these are like, you know, thin. These are these are what everybody else produces as a normal novel. That's what he wrote 4 of in like a year in his spare time. And you're just like, so when he came out, the video where he launched it, like we're watching it, and it's like me and my kids, I think at the time, and he just like got the printed out novels, right? And it's just like one after the other. He's like, I wrote this novel, oh, and then I wrote a second, I wrote a third, and it's just like a huge pile of paper, and you're like, how did he do? I've just been sitting watching movies in COVID. This guy wrote 4 novels. You know what I mean? Like, so it really, really hit home.
So you were 100% correct in assuming that I would appreciate and like that. Yes, totally right my speed. Yes. Love that. That is just I'm so on board, and I'm shocked that like I guess I'm not a huge fantasy guy. I like science fiction, but I'm not a huge fantasy guy. So I guess there's some part of it that makes sense that I've never like really crossed paths with him at all.
Yeah.
And so I'll be curious if I enjoy the fantasy aspect of it. But regardless of if I like his books or not, I'm a huge fan of him. Yeah. And I will continue to study him to see how I can adopt any of that mentality or even any of those tactics for my own gain.
He has an interesting thing just on the books where like the long term, his lifelong. So he has a lifelong plan, like this whole the Cosmere, which is his main thing, all these interconnected novels, and it's going to take him his whole life to do it, and it's going from fantasy, which is where he is now, and right now we're kind of at the middle of the big plan.
Okay,
and it's transitioning into space, so it's going to be sci-fi by the end. Now it'll still be sci-fi based on like sort of the magical underpinnings of this universe, so it's not going to be like hard sci-fi,
right?
It's still going to be like fantasy sci-fi, but his whole thing is he does these hard magic systems, so there are rules. And
I did like that. That he has like guiding principles.
So even the sci-fi era of this will be like hard fantasy or hard science fiction in that regard of like there are rules, you have to play within the rules, there's physics and there's the magical physics, so to speak. And so there will be all that kind of stuff you get in hard sci-fi of like, well, the spaceship just can't go any faster than this and whatever, like that kind of thing. So so it's really interesting. Love Sanderson. Definitely very good guy for when you're feeling, I don't know, he's just very optimistic in his stuff overall. So it's
that's good because
we'll see if you like fantasy though. That'll be interesting to see if you like fantasy.
The big genre is dystopian, right? So even in sci-fi, there's like everything is terrible and the world is awful and everything sucks and one hero. It's like, oh gosh, I'm so sad reading this. So to hear that he has an optimistic point of view,
it's kind of interesting because in fantasy, there's basically like the two biggest people so there's Tolkien, who kind of like invented the whole thing. We all know Tolkien, and then there's George R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones, and then there's Sanderson with his like Cosmere world. And I love them both. I love all three, but like it is very interesting because you just have Game of Thrones is super like everything's terrible, everybody's screwing everybody, everything's horrible, the world's a mess. Now I do actually think even there by the end they will have more of a hopeful note, especially in the books, that I don't think the show really conveyed. But you're gonna have to get through that whole thing, I can't read like
5,000 pages and then at the end be like, and he's happy now.
Right. Like, oh, so there's some of that. So where Sanderson has it much more all throughout is much more optimistic. But I think Game of Thrones is certainly better written. I would say like he's like a true craftsman of like every word is like sort of perfect and like the way it all comes together. Sanderson's that's not really his thing. His thing is more like just he's a good writer, but it's more like the ideas, like bigger picture aspect of it rather than like the craftsmanship of like the literal phrase he uses in a spot type of thing. But so anyway, we should do a fantasy podcast.
It was a long 3-hour podcast, but I find especially when I like the guests, I find Tim Ferriss's podcast to be pretty good because he does a good job, in my opinion, of asking like pretty like grounding tactical questions of like I'm listening to they're all so long, but I'm listening to one with Seth Godin right now and Tim Ferriss, and Tim has been like, okay, so tell me an example of when that happened in your business. Because, Seth Godin's got these ideas about how the world works. And, Tim's like, okay, cool. When did that, like, I don't get it. Tell me more.
Right.
And I find that to be very helpful. So, but there are some guests where I'm like, I don't want to learn about New Age meditation for 3 hours. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to skip this one. So
that was the first one I've ever listened to of Tim Ferriss. And it was, he did a good job.
Yeah, some of them are very, very good. It just depends on the guest. There's like, they'll do like microdosing mushrooms, and I'm like, not really something. Not really something I super care about. I'm gonna miss that one. I still have not listened to a Lex Friedman beyond the Peter Levels one.
The absolute worst. He's literally the worst of the famous interviews. I mean, it's unbearable. His questions are terrible. Tone is mind-numbing.
That's what I found is very flat, and it's like Brother, you want me to listen to 4 hours of this?
I don't get it. Like, it's like, I get Rogan. Rogan is not for me.
But you get it. Like, you get the entertainment aspect of it.
I get the entertainment value. I get that he's going to ask some questions I think are just so stupid that I can't frequent it. But I also get he's going to ask some questions even from like the dumb place where like then he's going to get a good answer, right? Because like I'm guy on the street. Yes. Here's a dumb question. Now you're going to give me the smart answer to my dumb question or whatever, right? Like, I get Rogan.
He plays his role very well.
Yeah. I don't get Lex Friedman at all. I don't know why anybody would want to listen to him for 4 hours. I don't get it, but
I know.
That's what I know.
I saw once the Lex Friedman had like a 7-hour podcast with somebody. And somebody tweeted, "Oh, perfect for my commute to Europe." It's like, who's listening to this? Who's listening to 7 hours of a podcast?
It's crazy. The Lex Friedman guy just does weird stuff. Like he tweets, like he's been tweeting about Taylor and Prime and stuff. And they're like, we don't even know. What you're talking about.
Like started following Primogen and Taylor and West Boss, and then it's like,
and then Prime's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Am I coming on the show? Like he's just tweeting at him, and like, but they haven't been on the show, so I don't know. Like he's just a weird dude, obviously, you know. But I don't know. So what's on the Aaron Francis train for this week? More grinding, more coding.
More coding, more recording, screencasting. You know, I don't know if you've been following Steve on Twitter, but he's got his whole studio set up in the garage.
I did see that stuff. Yes. Yeah, that was really cool. How he was doing the lights and stuff.
Super cool. So more of that, more open source work, catching up on Solo, on Fusion.
The other course launched, right? Or no?
Yeah, the Rails course launched. Yeah.
Okay. And how's that going? Like it's for sale now and everything.
Yeah, it's for sale. It's working. It's working. I think it is frankly better than we expected. Like we expected a relatively low key launch, and I think it's done much better than that. But it's less than like one of the generic database only courses because we're kind of combining two things, and so of course that niches it down. But yeah, super pleased with the launch, actually. It's sort of an open question as to whether or not or how we'll do the guest instructor thing again. Because what is the highest and best use of our time? Is that doing another guest or like doubling down on the stuff we're doing? And right now it feels like doubling down on the stuff that we're doing in-house. That's what it feels like. I think if we had reached the point where it's like, we don't know what we're going to do next, then it would make sense to say, well, let's hire, an expert in some other area and branch out. But that's not the case right now. So successful experiment, which is good because they're not always successful. Successful experiment, launch went great. I think Steven's happy, the instructor, and then of course our Steve is happy, and so I think everybody's happy, and super cool. It was nice for me. People would ask questions about like the content, and I'm like, I don't know, ask Steven. Like, let me tag Steven. That's kind of nice. It was a very low pressure launch for me.
Well, that could be also the kind of thing that just gets dropped in, right? Because like, okay, you have your mainline series, and when it's like, oh, this mainline series. There's like this overlapping technology where like maybe there's an opportunity, but like for you to go off into Rails land or JavaScript land or whatever, like maybe that's not worth it. So it's like, okay, you got the mainline one, you have an offshoot one that you just have somebody else do.
And I will say that reminds me of a point. The bundle sales have been doing very well.
Oh,
so
interesting.
We've bundled.
You did bundle.
We bundled high leverage Rails and high performance SQLite. And so if you want to like get a cursory overview of SQLite from a Rails perspective, you can just buy the one course. But if you want to dive super deep, we've got a discount to buy both of them together. And that's been doing very well. And so that leads me to believe that bundling could be like a big part of our future. So that is a data point that we did not have before this, and we have now learned, and that is valuable moving forward.
So I just want to ask you, because this bundle is not on tryhardstudios.com and it's not on highperformanceSQLite.com. So is it on the other one?
I should hope so.
we got to get this website situation straight. I'm like, oh, let me go look at this bundle. Oh, it's not there. Oh, it's not there. Okay.
HighleverageRails.com. Buy now. High performance SQLite bundle. Yeah, it's down there. So we need to add the bundle to High Performance SQLite. Yeah.
And this one doesn't have a team. Now, why doesn't this one have a team?
You know, Ian?
That's a good question.
I got questions. That is a good question. We'll add a team tier.
Well, no, this one does have other courses linked off it, which is nice, which the other ones don't have the other courses.
Yeah, we're learning as we go.
Yeah,
so
we gotta go retrofit that.
We gotta go bring some of that back. So I was telling Steve this yesterday. There was some part of me that thought, like, after having launched the first two courses, SQLite and Postgres, thinking that, like, oh, we've got a business. Like, we've got this is a business. We're out of the startup phase and, like, things are working. And I think what I'm realizing is we had two very successful launches and we still have to build the business. And so stuff like you're talking about here, like, every site should link to every other site. Every site, every course should have team bundles. Every email should have links to all the courses. Like, those types of things, we just haven't executed on yet. No. And I think as the launch hype fades away, those things become just, like, infinitely more important. And it's good for me to realize we did a great job last year and I'm super proud of us, but we still have a long way to go in terms of, like, let's build a business and not a hype launch train, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially now that you have, I feel like I bought so many of these things where I just buy the biggest bundle because I'm like, well, I might want that someday, right? And it's like for you guys to be like, okay, here's your Postgres and your SQLite and your MySQL when you get that out, right? Like, that should just be a bundle. Yep, here's everything we have, right? And it's like twice the price, except you're getting 4 times the value.
Yep.
And I just think a ton of people are going to be like, okay, like, I use 2 or 3 of these out of the 4, and I'm just going to buy it, right? And, like, whatever. So yeah, I think that's definitely money on the table for sure. That's just, like, no extra work once you just get, once you get it set up. So
yep.
But you'll get there. Yeah, I do think, like, these course things, it is weird, like, because it's not subscription and you kind of have to always be launching or selling or SEO or whatever, all the different angles on it, but you do kind of have to keep it rolling, so at least keep that baseline revenue reasonable.
Yep. So we are learning.
Yeah. Aaron France has been off in open source land, coming back to commercial land.
It's it's a TikTok. You got to do both. So got to keep all the plates spinning. Unfortunately.
Yep. All right. Well, that sounds good.
Give us a readout. Last week you froze and you didn't read us out. You're like, well, see you later.
I know. Since I got rid of my whole standard readout, right? Like, now it's like, I'm like, oh, what's the point of the readout?
Yeah, whatever. All right. We're done.
Follow us over at mostlytechnical.com. Mostlytechnical.com.
And it just really got swallowed in the back of your throat.
Mostlytechnical.com. From there, we have links to all of our social media stuff, all the old podcasts. Sponsor the show from there.
Sponsor the show, people. Do you think we do this for free? Come on.
We're dying.
We got to put food on our family. Yeah.
We got to put food on our family. We got to put food in our family. All the stuff. We need the money to do it. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week. Later.
So long.